Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Let's take a look at how easy it is to create this nice cinematic cyan look. I've got this shot here, which was shot on a Sony a7S III, and we're gonna use this as the shot to create this look. I've got my K83 PowerGrade loaded on here. If you don't have this PowerGrade, don't worry at all. You don't need it for this technique that I'm gonna show you, because you can take this technique with you on any look, on any color grade, on any footage that you're working with. Whenever you get to the part of creating a look for your project, your shot, etc., just follow the same technique and you should arrive at something similar. I have a K83 PowerGrade, which is built after the Kodak 2383 look, and I also have an F13 PowerGrade, which is built off of a Fujifilm 3513 cinematic look. So if you're interested in that, there's a link in the description, but don't worry at all, you don't need it for this tutorial or for this technique. I'm just gonna quickly set up the PowerGrade. I'm gonna go ahead and input the Sony S-Log3 settings. And here's our shot with just the PowerGrade applied and our simple color space transform going. We have not made any effects. There's no other effects being applied except the Kodak 2383 cinematic LUT that's pre-built into this PowerGrade. So we'll go ahead and choose our hero frame, and I'm happy with that there. Now we're gonna go into the primaries node, which is this node here. And what I'm gonna do to start to create this sort of moody aesthetic is underexpose everything by one stop. And I'm thinking like an artist here. I'm doing this because I know that later on, I'm gonna boost things up and I'm gonna add a little bit more brightness when I get to the part where I'm adjusting contrast. And if we look over here at our waveform, I have this floor set up, which is set at 50 IRE. And what this is basically doing is just serving as a reminder to not push anything below this to create some of those nice soft blacks that you see in filmic looks. In underexposing, I know I've gone past that a little bit, but that's okay because now we're going to adjust our contrast. And what I'm gonna do with this contrast adjustment is open it up. I want to open up the dynamic range. I'm doing it here also because I want to create a custom contrast curve later on here in the look lab. So I know that I want to create this little bit of room down here for me to crush things into this zone here, which is around 50 IRE, which is gonna help to create that filmic look. Another thing is I'm gonna show you how to create soft blacks in a different ways. And we'll do that by going here into this highlights compound node. I'm gonna select this node. I'm gonna create a node before that. And then this node here is a matte node. So all it's doing is creating a matte from the luminance range in the shot. And I'm gonna attach it to this node here. If I hit Shift H, it shows us what we're selecting. And I want to select all the shadows, all the dark parts in our image. So I'm gonna invert the key here, and that's perfect. I'll hit Shift H to go back to my normal preview. And now I'm going to go into my midtone detail, and I'm gonna decrease that by, let's say 50, right? Depending on your shot, you can go all the way or much less so. And I'm going to just leave it around 50. And if I zoom in here, you can just barely see the effect, but what this is doing is it's taking all the detail in the shadows and the blacks and it's softening it up. And what that's doing is it's creating a nice smooth blend from the shadows into the midtones, and that helps to create a nice smooth texture in the image. Depending on how far you push this effect, this is also another way to create some of that glow effect. And it's actually, if I hit before and after, actually, I'll turn off this highlights node here. If I hit before and after, you can see that it is sort of creating this nice glow effect in the image. So now I'm gonna go into my look lab. I'm gonna go into the look node, and this look is this simple. We're gonna take our gamma wheel and we're gonna push it into cyan, okay? Before I do that, I wanna go over to my vectorscope. We're gonna go into the red channel. We're gonna type -0.02. If you watched my last tutorial on creating LUTs, this is the same technique. Now I'm just gonna go a little bit further into detail on this technique. We've pushed the image into cyan. Now I'm gonna use the green and magenta axis to line up my skin tones back on that skin tone indicator line. If I zoom in here to the vectorscope, this area here of the vectorscope is the skin tones, and I want that to line up with the skin tone indicator line. So I'm gonna grab my green channel, I'm gonna bring it up. And I'm actually gonna leave the skin tones a little bit left of the line. Okay, I'll zoom out of my vectorscope, and if I hit before and after, you can see that effect being done. And so that's all we did. We took the gamma wheel, pushed it into cyan, and balanced for the skin tones. And that was it. And now we have this nice, cool color aesthetic going on in our image, and it's really that simple. And that's not the only way to create this cyan aesthetic. You can do it in many other ways, but I just wanted to show you that it doesn't need to be so complicated. Sometimes look development is just one monochromatic adjustment. Now, obviously you can take this look farther. You can add contrast, start adding power windows and different things, film grain, halation. I'll leave that up to you. I won't include that as part of this tutorial, but what I will do is show you how to create a nice filmic contrast. And let's go ahead and do that by going back to our waveform, and let's go to our custom curves. I wanna make sure that I'm only working here in the luminance channel. And actually, before I do this, I'm gonna go into my look saturation node here, and I'm gonna add some saturation. Maybe not too much. I won't go into how this node is working, but you can go ahead and add saturation in any other way that you want, either in a node after your look node or before your look node. Now that I've done that, I'm gonna go to my contrast node and making sure that editable splines is selected. I'm gonna go ahead and click down here on this bottom end. I'm gonna grab this anchor. I'm just really gonna compress things down here into this 50 IRE line, right? Now from here, I'm gonna grab the top end, grab this anchor, and boom, bring it up. And working with these editable splines is helping to create this really beautiful, smooth contrast curve that's gonna help to keep the image nice and healthy. If I hit before and after, we can already see that nice contrast that we're getting in the shot. Making sure that I've selected here the qualifier, I'm gonna go to the skin tones and see where they are on the waveform. If I hover over the skin tones here, you can see this little indicator on the waveform that's dancing around. If you don't have that, go over to the scope settings and go down to display qualifier focus and just make sure that that is checked and you'll get the same thing. Here on the highlights of the skin tones, which are pretty much the brightest parts of the skin tones, and I just wanna make sure that that highlight is sitting in between 512 and 640 IRE. I'm gonna come back to the low end and crush everything down again. Then I'm gonna go here. I'm liking that right there. And then just gonna check on his skin tones again. And that's good there. I might actually just bump it up just a little bit. And if I hit before and after, you can see now we have a really nice contrast adjustment going on, and we've got all our darkest parts right around that zone, which is giving us those nice soft filmic blacks. And I'm loving it. We've got color separation here. We've got this overall cyan color aesthetic, which is not only adding cyan in our highlights and everything else, but it is pushing all these greens into that cyan. And that's a very common thing that people do when they create that quote unquote cinematic look. And that's what we're getting here. And keep in mind the movement of this look adjustment. Pushed everything into one color, balance for the skin tones. That's all we did. Now we did that with the gamma wheel, right? I'm gonna switch over to this color chart. And this is a color chart you can download for free. The link is in the description. And this color chart has the 6 main hues, and then the hues that are in the middle of those hues. It has a luminance range, and it has a skin tone range, right? And that's these little dots that you see here on the vectorscope. We're gonna copy that same adjustment, and we might actually be a little bit more dramatic just so we can see what's going on. Right, so we'll decrease by negative 0.08 and then balance the skin tones, right? If I zoom in here, reset the screen, push everything into cyan, and now use the green, and there you go, skin tones are back on the line. If I hit before and after, notice what's happening to the rest of the hues, okay? So you see how they're responding to this adjustment. Now I'm gonna create another node, and I'm gonna take the offset wheel, and I'm gonna create the same type of adjustment. Push everything into cyan, use the green to balance the skin tones. And now watch what happens. Look at how differently all the colors in the shot are reacting. Taking a color chart like this and then playing with all the controls and all the adjustments to see what happens with your luminance, with your skin tones, with the different hues can help you to better understand what's going on. I'm gonna take the offset wheel and I'm gonna move everything around. Look at how all the colors in the chart respond, yes? I'm gonna take the gamma wheel and make the same adjustment, but look what happens. Very different, right? All these colors here are being less affected when we use the gamma wheel than when we are using the offset wheel. Now, this isn't to say that one is better than the other. This is just so that you understand how these controls are working. So the gamma wheel is going to target your neutrals a lot better, and it can help to create a more naturalistic effect. And whatever color adjustment, whether you're pushing everything into cyan or yellow or whatever you're doing, it'll basically be like you're just painting the neutral parts of the shot. Obviously, there are other things to consider to make something look natural, but just using the gamma wheel in a monochromatic way can be a very easy way to create an aesthetic. And we saw how easy it is to create that with just the gamma wheel. Now, I'm not going to do it in this tutorial because you should go and do it with as much footage as you can so that you can see what you get. Now do that with the gain wheel. Push into cyan, balance for the skin tones. Try it with the lift wheel. Push into cyan, balance for the skin tones using the green and magenta axis. Now go a little further. Use the gain wheel to push things into cyan. Use the gamma wheel, again with the green and magenta axis, to balance for the skin tones. Same thing, use the gain wheel to push into cyan, use the lift wheel to balance for the skin tones. And just see what happens to your images and see what kind of aesthetics you get when you follow the same principle, just using a different control. And you can include the offset wheel as well. I've got more tutorials coming for you guys on look development. If you guys are interested in that, consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.